Hey, what's up, traders? Going 2 for 2 today. A little tricky one here on SHC. We're going to watch the live trades today. But before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe. Always appreciate that support. If you ever have any questions, comments, concerns, you can leave them down below or in the Discord or Twitter. Those links are down below as well. And we're going to jump right into it as always. So you're going to see me pull up SHC. Now, a little prerequisite to this trade is I am completely out of it. Had a pretty rough morning. My keyboard wasn't working all morning. I finally got it working about 10 minutes before market open. And as I was trying to figure all that out, dealing with the kids, the oldest is home today, and the youngest is just he was being a brat. There's no other way to put it. But anyways, we finally sit down and we see this popping. It was right off the scanner. It was a pretty good pop. However, pretty decent move here. Pre-market gave all of it back, got back up to that same key area, and I saw it was a double top. And just to stop for a second, I preach all the time never to play these double tops. And the reason I always say never to play these double tops is there is a ton of people that either are short, got short, whatever, into all of this. And where is the most likely spot that their stop is going to be? It's probably going to be over these key areas, right? So if for some reason you do get a move up to that area and it punches through, the odds are you're going to be triggering a lot of buy orders. And what does that do? It creates a little bit of a short squeeze, right? So it's maybe not necessarily a short squeeze, but short stop outs, which could then lead into a short squeeze, etc. So that's why I advocate to not trade double tops. The only time you'll see me trade a double top and feel confident about it, which I'll still consider it like a C, C plus type trade, is it was like a move from down here at 620 and it pops all the way back up to like yesterday's high at that key area. However, that's not the case. This was just from pre-market. So everyone that's trading this thing is like, well, if this goes higher, I'm probably just going to ditch it. And I have a feeling that's exactly what happened. So why I got in here, just not smart. I emotionally wasn't here yet. Was just looking for the quick pullback. I didn't even take that many shares. You know, even if this works out, what are we making? $20? It wasn't really it wouldn't have been that good of a trade, especially for a Monday morning on Thanksgiving week. I wasn't expecting much anyway. So I guess part of me just was like, hey, let's just jump in, try to make a quick buck and, kind of be done with it. However, I end up getting myself into a bit of a conundrum. As you're going to see, kind of zoomed around, but as I was looking at something else, I tried to get short there on MNTC. I never ended up getting filled. As that was happening, SHC eventually popped up here, up towards 850, got rejected at 850. So I got my ad knowing that the halt price was 850. Could have probably got a better fill there had I put my order out front running the halt price. But that was actually why I had added there, because I was waiting to see if it halted. And if it didn't, I was going to jump in. But for the first ad, I would typically always look to just front run the halt. However, that's not what ended up happening. And as you can see, the halt price moved up. And this time I'm like, well, I'm not going to start adding too quickly, because what if this thing starts to get crazy and we start to squeeze up through 9? So as you can see, this thing starts to halt and it's actually going to go ahead and halt. So fast forward on halts, gaps up a little bit. And now this is where I'm looking to see when, and we'll go back and watch this again. I'm looking for essentially the buyers and the people that are covering their shorts. I'm looking for a pretty obvious spot where they're done, at least temporarily. And as you can see, it's kind of shaky right out of the gate, but I'm waiting to see if it wants to try to go higher. And if it does, but not too much higher, that's where I'm looking to add, which is exactly what happens. And at this point, it brings my average up to 850. I'm actually not too upset about being right at 850. Usually I want to be away from those key areas, the whole $1.50. But I know that previous resistance is all the way down here at that 820 area. So it's kind of what I was looking for, but I really was not looking forward to this going up through 9, because now I'm like, wow, I started this thing way too early. And if anything, this really should have been my first entry. Like if we pause and we look at this, I wouldn't have been mad.
UCL out all.
I wouldn't have been too mad at having a first entry going into that first halt. But this first entry really kind of killed me because I essentially built my size up a little bit too quick. And as you're going to see, we start to head up towards 9. I was originally just going to add another 200, but at this point I'm like, well, if it goes up 9, I got to do like a 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 4. But if it stays below 9, I'd be looking to add a little bit less. But now I'm looking, I got to get my average up if it makes that big move up through. I'm obviously looking for 920. Didn't quite want to get there, gave us 916. That's where it looked like it was about to stop. Of course, I hit the button and it says, okay, there's your 920. And now I'm starting to look at the halt price again, right? We're at 928 and I'm like, oh, this isn't good. And then I see the halt price jump up to 942. I was really keeping an eye on that halt price because if you see them fiddling with it, that's not a good sign. Like if the price is never giving you that flush that you're looking for, but at the same time you see the halt price steadily going up, that's not a good sign. There's definitely some manipulation probably happening. Somebody's propping it up. And if you really, really watch the price action on this, you can see that there are clearly bids pretty much the entire way up. So at this point, we have, how many shares do we have now? We have 1, 2, 4, added 4. So we have 800 shares. Looking to add another 400 here just to try to get our average up towards that $9. So when we get that $9 retest, we can be okay. So as you can see, we are up to 1,200 shares now. And I'm still looking for that flush. And as you can see, it decides to keep trying to go higher. So at this point, I still see the halt price is up there at 953. I'm basically hoping the 950 is going to be where people were kind of stepping in. We haven't had any kind of an attempt at a pullback yet. So I'm really looking for that 950 area to kind of be the top. However, we get right through it, pretty much go up to 962. But what I noticed, it happened real quick there. The halt price was 962. A lot of people might not notice this. Halt price was 962. It only got the 960. So it didn't have the buying pressure to even test that new halt price. And I basically told myself in that moment, okay, that's a good sign that we're running out of buyers. If the buyers were still flying in, that thing would have at least tested the halt price before possibly faking it out. But we never even got to it. It was only 2 cents away and we couldn't quite get to it. So obviously there was probably a big sell order front running the halt price, which then started to make it drop. And that's kind of what I was like, you know what, I'm going to get a big ad there, which was 800 shares, which brought us to 2,000 shares total with an average of 918. And from there, we're basically looking for exactly what just happened there. 28 got all the way down to 24, it looked like. And so I basically am trying to get out of my position now at this point because as you can tell from the chart, it doesn't look pretty. Wasn't afraid to throw some size on. I did the math afterwards. If we would have ended up getting stopped out at high of day, we would have been down a total of $840 with no slippage. So it would have been a pretty big loss. And as you can see, at this point, I had told myself, I'm just going to I literally told myself, I don't want it to be a fake break through the highs. So I wanted to make sure that if it goes through the highs, I'm that close to my max loss at this point that I'm just going to let it go. And if it wants to go up to I think it would have been probably 970, I would have been done. That would have been it for me in the day. And I would have been down a cool $1,000, et cetera. But yeah. So as you're going to see, this thing does end up kind of starting to work out. For some reason, my OBS was being weird and kept taking me to this GSAT chart. But as you can see, it came down. It actually went down a little bit further. It went to 913, and I had my order at 908 to take the majority off. And when it went down to 913 or so and then started to come back up, I was a little frustrated because that could have been a little bit of a green takeoff there for at least half the position. And at 8 cents, that's $100 for 1,000 shares. That's what I was trying to take off. But unfortunately, we couldn't get that push. And I ended up taking it off for a small loss, which was actually, I think, a $25 loss, $25, $30 loss on that first cover. And I did the same thing here. I tried to get some down closer to 9. It tried to go down to that same area, never got under 910. And as it was coming back up, we took a half off again. So now we're down to 500 of the 2,000 shares. And at this point, I'm getting a little frustrated because if it goes back to the highs, I'm still going to have a pretty hefty loss there. Still got 500 shares. Obviously not as big as it would have been. But I don't know why OBS did that today. That's kind of weird. But we're gonna scroll forward a little bit here. It was only doing it when I was active on the chart itself. But I actually ended up adding 500 shares back here once I realized we got above this candle. 950 rejected again, and on the way down, I added 500 back. It immediately dumped, and I immediately took that 500 back off. And right here, we were actually up for $44, which isn't great, considering what we went through. But at the same time, had I taken it all off there, we would have been up, I don't know, 50, like a little over, been around $60. But I was really looking for this thing to unwind and give us that move down towards 850 and get down to that 820 pre previous resistance. I was in there somewhere. Anyways, go back to it. And you can see it starts to come back up. We took a little bit more off. We're down to 125 at this point. And I'm pretty sure it just kind of starts to go. Yeah. So we tried to add back one last time, and I basically told myself if it gets above that area, because it rejected it a few times, I was just going to take it off. And it does end up going higher. Yeah, you can see it starts to go higher, and that's kind of when I cut it. And we can come take a look at the chart real quick so that you can see it ended up dying right after that. I mean, it was brutal watching this thing right after. So my video cut off on this candle where we took it off. And then, I mean, it went up a little bit, rejected. So we tried to get this move. That's why I was adding back all these times, trying to get this move. And it just kept getting bought up. And on this candle, it just felt like it wanted to go higher, which it did. But that was the candle that they rejected it. And then the thing literally faded for about an hour. So it was pretty brutal. But we did end up green on it. Could have been a max loss had it retested the highs and went through by a little bit. So the fact that we came out green on it, I'm not going to complain. Etsy was our other trade, which was a pretty good move. We only ended up taking 10 shares on this thing because it's Etsy and it was a little pricey. But as you can see, this thing spiked up, basically top ticked it. The spread was pretty bad. We ended up hitting the ask and got filled when it tried to go back up through 119. Basically a top tick in retrospect, but this thing actually gave the entire move back and came almost all the way back down to low a day. And so just a little bit of a pump there on Etsy. So we ended up finishing the day up $43 after commissions. I think it was like $25. I already closed Interactive Broker, so I don't know, but it was a lot of commissions there on SHC. So is what it is. Going to move on to tomorrow. Maybe we'll get something good. SHC would have totally been my fault. And I was actually talking to someone else earlier this morning, telling them that had SHC given me a max loss, I don't think I would consider this my strategy losing. I would consider this me losing because my strategy never tells me to start double tops. I say it all the time. You should never do this. And I did it. And then I even added before it was even like a nice extension away from that double top. So fault would have been all on me there. And it would have been a really nice trade had I waited until at least the halt prices started or after the halt price. But I didn't. And so I'm grateful to be out green on it. Unfortunate after all that work to only get what I got out of it, especially seeing what it did after. There's always the what ifs and there's always going to be these types of trades and trading. But how you deal with them and move forward is going to be the key. And that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. So don't forget to like, subscribe. Always appreciate the support. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.